year to be back here at home at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Now today we have a very special presentation for you. You're going to have the opportunity to hear directly from the person who took Disney's Animal Kingdom from concept to reality, a process that took nearly a decade. And since opening, he and his wonderful team have continued to create experiences for our park that can't be found anywhere else, such as Expedition Everest.
Woo! Yeah!
So, without further delay, I am thrilled to introduce the Senior Vice President of Creative Development for Walt Disney Imagineering and leader of the creative team who designed Disney's Animal Kingdom, Joe Rohde.
Well, thanks, Val. So I know since we're all kind of insiders, you know, we're all cast members and we kind of, you know the ropes of Disney's Animal Kingdom, rather than doing a very, very formal presentation, I was going to try and just talk about some of the ideas that went into making the park. I know some of you were probably here when the park opened, but I imagine there's quite a few of you that have come to Animal Kingdom since it opened. So some of this might be old information to some of you, some of it will be new information to others of you. I'll just try and talk about some of how we went about the process of conceptualizing the park and what we try to have it mean. I mean, Imagineering's been around for a long time. Some of you may have had direct involvement with Imagineers through one aspect of your job or another. It's quite a diverse group of people that we are, and not simply diverse in the fact that we come from different professional backgrounds. Indeed, we have architects and engineers and business managers and illustrators and sculptors and you know, acoustical engineers and industrial engineers, all kinds of people working at Imagineering. But also, there's not really kind of like a formal job qualification to be an Imagineer. So we end up with extremely diverse people from very, very diverse points of view. It's really an odd mix of people that we bring together to do this job. And when we set out, this is a million years ago, it was actually, I'll tell you, the very first meeting that I ever had to talk about doing something that was going to have to do with animals was probably in August of 1989. And Eisner had this idea, we want to do something about animals, and I went into this meeting with him, a meeting which lasted about 5 minutes, in which he's like, people like animals, people like Disney. If Disney did something with animals, people would like that. You know, and that was it. And then there was one other statement which was, you know, we've got the Magic Kingdom, we should have the Animal Kingdom. Like, that's a sentence that somehow makes sense. So, and that was it. It was sort of like, you know, mystic words from the pharaohs. Okay, that's the mission. And away we're going to go with it. And I have to say, in the early years of thinking about Animal Kingdom, all of this seems rather old news to many of us now, but it was a real dark horse kind of project. I mean, everybody was, they were still building the European Disneyland, the one in Paris. There were all kinds of other ideas out there that drew tremendous focus from Imagineering and from the company. And here was this tiny little team of people. Nobody really ever heard of any of us. It's not like we were famous. And, you know, my hearing was much smaller. So, you know, nobody noticed me running around doing this thing with this odd group of people. And I would have to say, in general, that probably most people figured, okay, this is just some odd exploration of some idea, may or may not happen, but probably won't happen. If you've read the book, The Making of Animal Kingdom, I think this is mentioned in the book. Because Eisner had such he really wanted to do this thing with animals, they had gone off and done this big study huge, like a 400-page white paper study from the business division, what it used to be called strategic planning, studying zoos all over the country, and how much did people pay to go into them, and how much did they cost to run, and blah blah blah, all these things. And this big document basically was presented to the company saying, you don't want to do this. There's zoos all over the country. People pay $15 to go in. They're all subsidized by governments. They're subsidized by volunteer labor. A million reasons why this isn't a good idea. So all of this was already in place the first morning any of us sat down to think about Animal Kingdom. But they did us the great favor of presenting us with this giant 400-page document, which basically described, okay, if you don't do this, then you might be able to do something. So we set about really from the very beginning to make sure that what we were describing, what we were talking about doing, would sort of veer off sideways from everything that was described in this gigantic document that they so obligingly gave us to read. Pardon me if my voice is a little shaky. I was talking all day long until like midnight yesterday, and of course all morning this morning. So I have slides, and I'm going to sort of talk through a little bit of that history of how things went down in those years. But one of the things I think would be interesting for all of you to understand is the degree to which, as much as Animal Kingdom is a place, it's obvious that it's a place, it's built out of concrete, it's built out of steel, it's got doors, it's got air conditioning, people come and go. It was really conceptualized as a story. We really do think of it the way you think about a movie, the way you think about a play, the way you think about a novel. It just happens to be built with physical objects. But in fact, it's meant to function like a story that when people come, they are wrapped up inside of this story. And to the degree that they choose to use their own imaginations and to indulge in the reality of that story, to that degree, we want to provide them a place where it can be that real for them. Not everybody wants to do that. Obviously, there's the people who want to ping off, every e-ticket they can here and then buzz off to another theme park, and okay, that's great. I don't actually believe that's the way to reap the value of what has gone into Animal Kingdom. I really think the best way to get the value out of Animal Kingdom is to really, really slow down and pay attention and sort of read it the way you would read a really, really complicated, rich kind of novel. So like I said, I don't have like a structured presentation. I'm going to sort of show slides. I'm going to talk about kind of what some of the slides represent, talk about some ideas. I have one little riff I'm going to take you through, might help you understand how we think, and we'll just see where that leads us. Now, I wonder is that screen good for you guys? Because some of these slides, let's just see when we go to this slide, because otherwise I take the lights down a little bit. Okay. This is Disney's Animal Kingdom. If you travel the property at all, you can almost see where everything is. There's the big canal that runs through the northern savannah. As a matter of fact, that little crossover is still there, right in the middle of the elephant area of the savannah. See where the little road goes over the canal? And then that great big thing that looks a little bit like a racetrack, big chunks of that are still there. Pretty much where Asia is today, where the unbuilt part of Asia beyond Kali River Rapids, that's kind of where that is. And then as you look down that road that continues on down, you can kind of figure out where Africa goes almost halfway down, really, to where you see this sort of three big sandy patches. That's about where Africa is, and the Tree of Life is almost where that sandy patch starts to touch, sort of beyond that sandy patch, just at the beginning of that band of dark foliage. It was just this gigantic piece of land that we were going to imagine we were going to do something interesting on, which is, in a way, if you think about it, it's incredibly arrogant. That a bunch of us just sat down and thought, yeah, would you please give us this giant, giant piece of land and give us millions and millions of dollars and just trust us that we're going to do a really cool thing with all of it later.